You ready?
Yep.
All right. Three, two, one. Hey there, Marvel fans. Want to know what Iceman's romantic life is? What? Nah, I messed that up, didn't I?
Yes.
I messed that up real bad.
Okay.
What?
Nothing. I said it's okay.
Okay. Three, two, one. Hey there, Marvel fans. Want to know how Iceman's romantic life is going?
Is Charles Xavier really alive?
Why does Darth Vader resent the Inquisitors so much?
All this and more on this week's amazing, stellar, spectacular episode of 6 Months Behind.
We're going to do that again.
Well, you didn't like my adjectives?
No, I stumbled over Inquisitors.
Yes, you did. I didn't think it was that bad.
I stumbled over it, so it was bad.
Good Lord. If we stopped every time I stumbled over a word, we never get anything done.
Don't stumble over your words. And I won't stumble over mine.
Oh, good Lord.
Okay. 3, 2, 1. Hey there, Marvel fans. Want to know how Iceman's romantic life is going?
Is Charles Xavier really dead? Or alive?
Brother,
we had it right the second time. You're the one who wanted to do it again. Go.
3, 2, 1. Hey there, Marvel fans. Want to know how Iceman's romantic life is going?
Is Charles Xavier really alive?
Why does Darth Vader resent the Inquisitors so much?
All this and more on this week's episode of the 6 Month Behind podcast.
Okay. And regular intro. 3, 2, 1.
What is up? This is the 6 Month Behind podcast for the week of 5/17/18. I am Pat.
And I'm Sean, and we're coming to you from the future.
Yes. Or the past.
No, you said the 17th, which is the future.
Did I?
Yeah.
Oh, God. All right, do it again.
Well, I was going to roll with it, but okay. All right. 3, 2, 1.
What is up? This is the 6 Month Behind podcast for the week of May 7th, 2018. I am Pat.
And I am Sean.
And this week, just for fun, we're Shohei Ohtani, a pitcher and hitter for the Los Angeles Angels. You heard about this dude?
No.
He is doing things that no one since Babe Ruth has done, which is he's a starting pitcher, but he's also a regular batter, having hit 5 or 6 home runs this year.
Oh, really?
Dude's got like a 300 average and is hitting for power and still a starting pitcher.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's
crazy.
Literally, it's unheard of since Babe Ruth did it in the 20s.
Yeah, I mean that just doesn't happen, dude. Especially not in modern baseball.
No, it doesn't at all. And people are wondering what the Angels are. I think they're running away with their division, and they're wondering what they're going to do with him if they get to the playoffs.
Yeah.
They're doing really well. Yeah, they're doing really well. And if they want to, if they just want to make him a pitcher and give him the rest, or if they use him to DH some point, I don't know, man. But dude, it's what he's doing is unprecedented.
Yeah, it's like, oh, what do we do with this guy? Do we just let him do everything on the field, or do we put him somewhere in particular? What do we do? This guy's a phenom.
Yeah. Really, that's what they're wrestling with, man. It's pretty entertaining. If you get the chance, you should watch him.
I hadn't heard about him. I mean, you know me, I'm not a huge baseball person anyway. If it's not Red Sox, I don't care. So,
well, they kept from being swept by the Yankees this week, so they got 1 of 3 from the Yankees.
Yeah, don't remind me.
Yeah,
they were doing really well in the last 2 or 3 weeks. They've really tanked it.
No, man, they were like 18-1 or 17-1 going into that Yankee series.
No, I mean they're not doing bad, but they're not doing as well as they were, and they lost to the Yankees, so
nothing else matters.
No, yeah, right. It's like Auburn and Alabama. Yeah, you won the championship, but you still lost the Iron Bowl.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah. Speaking of the Iron Bowl, Alabama put Auburn out of the first round of the SEC tournament in softball, so
and then lost in the second round to Florida. So
dude, they're looking good this year.
Yeah, they're gonna. And we're speaking of softball. They're gonna. Florida's probably gonna win another national championship.
Probably so. It's just their year. And I think
in other news, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think Auburn's gonna have to rebuild after this year because they got that new coach and everything, and a bunch of girls are graduating.
In other news, Shield hasn't been canceled yet.
No, it's on the bubble. You know, it's May. All the networks are announcing what shows are canceled, what shows are getting renewed. Of course, the CW renewed pretty much everything from the Arrowverse, Arrow, Flash, Legends of Tomorrow. Actually, the most recent season of Legends of Tomorrow has been pretty good. That show's been mediocre, but this past season, now that it's on Netflix, I've been watching it. It's actually really good.
I started watching it on Netflix, man. I think it is pretty good. I'm still in the first season.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know. I felt like season 1 was lackluster. Season 2 was just okay, but this third season, I feel like they're really hitting on all cylinders.
Yeah.
Supergirl will be wrapping up soon. The Flash has been great this season. I haven't been watching Arrow. The last 2 seasons of Arrow have not impressed me, and I'll be honest, once it's going to hit Netflix in a couple weeks, and if it doesn't have me in the first 3 or 4 episodes, I'm out.
Yeah, at one point I was watching all those CW shows, and then there became so many that I couldn't keep up with them, and I was like, okay, whatever.
Yeah, it was easy when it was just Arrow and Flash, but now it's Arrow, Flash, Supergirl, Legends Tomorrow, and now Black Lightning, which I also haven't watched. So, but yeah, to surprise nobody, Inhumans got canceled.
Yeah, that's a surprise to absolutely no one.
No one at all. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is on the bubble, but has not been announced as canceled yet. So we'll see. I don't know. That's another show that I gave up on halfway through this season this year.
The first half of the season kind of drug, but the second half is improved.
Okay, because I gave up on it about, I don't know, 8 or 9 episodes in.
Yeah, it got better because it took a hiatus, and then when it came back after hiatus, it was much better.
Yeah. You know, Fox is talking about canceling Gotham.
Really?
Yeah. That show's awesome. I don't know if they're just not getting good ratings or what. They did put it on Thursday nights, which is not necessarily good news, but dude, that show's fantastic.
They were up against Shamey getting married this week on The Big Bang Theory.
Yeah. That show got renewed for another, I don't know how many seasons.
I think season 12 is going to be the last, most recent thing I heard. Did you watch that episode?
No.
Dude, Mark Hamill was hilarious.
Was he?
He was, man. He was great.
Yeah, he's always good and stuff like that. Mark Hamill's a nerd. Like, it's not that he just played Luke Skywalker. Like, that dude's a nerd. And so he loves doing stuff like that, man.
It was a great episode. It was, it had Kathy Bates in it. It has the lady who plays Sheldon's mom, I can't remember. The whole cast. A lot of which you don't see in some episodes, and Mark Hamill absolutely stole the thing, man. He was hilarious.
That's good.
Yeah.
Was it Fox that canceled Brooklyn Nine-Nine? Everybody was up in arms about that show too. I'm not a huge fan of that show, but apparently it's got a big following. Dude,
it took NBC like 10 minutes to pick it up.
Yeah, they canceled it, and then NBC was like, "We'll take it. We'll pick it up." They saw the writing on the wall, and it got picked up real fast. And did you see where Fox picked up Last Man Standing?
Yes.
It's been off the air for a year.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden Fox is like, yeah, we'll do Last Man Standing, probably because Roseanne's been such a big hit.
No, they've been talking about it since it went off the air, and ABC stopped production very late, so I don't think Fox had time to pick it up for the 2017-2018 season, but they're definitely getting it now. And understand, it was the second highest rated comedy on ABC when they canceled it.
Mm-hmm.
If it draws half the numbers it did at ABC, it'll be Fox's highest rated show behind The Simpsons.
Yeah, Fox is having to juggle their lineup. A lot of their shows weren't performing well outside of their animated stuff.
Right.
And even The Simpsons is, I don't know, people have not been happy with this past season of The Simpsons.
Yeah, and they renewed the Orville for reasons I don't understand.
There's a lot of sci-fi heads that love that show, and I don't get it.
I don't get it, man. I tried. I struggled. I tried, man. As near as I can tell, Seth MacFarlane has made them. It's Seth MacFarlane, right?
Yeah.
Hundreds of millions of dollars, possibly billions with The Simpsons. So they feel they owe him a debt of gratitude. So they're letting him do this.
Well, The Simpsons is Matt Groening's thing.
I thought it was Seth MacFarlane.
No, he does Family Guy.
Is it? No. Okay.
Yeah, I'm certain.
Okay.
But no, Seth MacFarlane has made the Fox a $1 billion, and he gets to do whatever he wants. So, yeah, he did Family Guy, and then American Dad, which was a big hit for them, and some other
the Cleveland Show, the Ted movies, and A Million Ways to Die in the West.
Yeah, and then I mean, he's also overseen a lot of the production of some of their other animated stuff, and dude, that guy gets to walk into the Fox boardroom and say, "Here's what we're gonna do,"
which apparently he does, because that's why the Orville got renewed, which is where we started all this.
Dude, the Orville, people like that show, man. I don't get it, especially when it's up against like Star Trek Discovery. That show was great.
I don't get it at all, man.
That was a good show. The Orville, I couldn't. It felt like a Star Trek parody, and that's kind of what it is. It's a Star Trek parody, but
right.
I don't know, man. If you like the Orville, whatever. If you do like the Orville, you can email us at 6monthsbehind@gmail.com. That's the number 6monthsbehind@gmail.com.
You can go to the website and look at what we do and don't like in the way of comic books at www.6monthsbehind.com.
Yep. And you can check out our other show, What's Next, which we will be doing a new episode of shortly.
Yes, it will be about this one will be about the comic boom. It's a 3-part series: the comic boom of the late 80s and early 90s, then the comic bust of the mid 90s, and then how all of that relates to today. Oh, okay. So we're going to do the boom first. Yeah.
Boom, then bust, then boom again.
Yes.
All right.
Then bust again.
Then bust again. Yeah.
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 That's Marvel. They'll tell you they're busted.
Dude, I think the whole industry we've talked about this ad nauseum, but I think the whole industry is shifting in a way that people are going to have to redefine their metrics of success.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, before we get into our books this week, we wanted to let you know that we do discuss spoilers. We are going to talk about spoilers in the comic books that came out on Marvel Unlimited this week. So if you have not read them all and you don't want to be spoiled, you should pause the show here and come back later when you've read them all, because we will still be here.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
Okay, so the first book up this week is our Spider-Man books with Peter Parker, Spectacular Spider-Man number 6. Now, I've been waiting for this for a while, and I think we spoiled it a few weeks ago.
We
just discussed spoilers, so, if you don't want to hear about it, last warning, there it was. So, in the first 5 issues of this, we discover that Peter Parker has a sister, may not be his sister. That's still up in the air.
He considers her his sister, but they're not actually blood related. I don't know.
I'm reading the first page. It's yeah. They may or may not be brother and sister. Anywho, then the Tinker has a brother who has had his lab blown up and is gone missing. And Spider-Man believes that J. Jonah Jameson has information that will help him solve this. And Jameson has agreed to give it to him for a 1 hour, all questions answered interview. So that's what this issue is. There's no fighting. There's no action. It is J. Jonah Jameson and Spider-Man sitting down and talking for an hour in this whole issue over lasagna that Jameson cooked. Yes. And they really get into why does Jameson hate Spider-Man so much, and why does Spider-Man irritate Jameson? That's really what the crux of this issue is. And turns out Jameson just has this. At some point, he had a girlfriend, and the girlfriend was killed by a man in the mask, and he feels bad about it, and he thinks the same thing of Peter Parker, that he's just or Spider-Man, he's just a man in the mask and doesn't take life seriously and doesn't take responsibility seriously. And at one point, he, actually tells him he doesn't know anything about responsibility and he's a coward. And Peter just starts laughing, just laughing at him. And that's when he does the unthinkable, which is take off his mask and tell Jonah who he really is. Now, let's pause there a moment. I have read ahead a few issues because this book doesn't seem to fit in with the continuity of Amazing Spider-Man. However, this is happening in the 616 universe. This is real. In the next few issues, they're going to do some time jumping and time traveling. But what's happening here is in the 616 universe and is happening. Peter Parker just revealed himself to be Spider-Man to his worst enemy, J. Jonah Jameson. As they're talking and that happens, turns out Jameson put on his blog, which is what he's doing these days. He's not working for the news network anymore. He's not working for the Bugle, that he would be interviewing Spider-Man in his apartment tonight. And the FBI and S.H.I.E.L.D. are looking for Parker, or Spider-Man, I should say. So they show up Derek Jones' apartment looking for him. Yeah, there you go.
I thought it was a pretty good issue.
It was a very good issue, man.
I feel like this is really where the series is going to take off, because this series has been getting a lot of good reviews and good press. And I was kind of wondering why, reading the first couple of issues, and I realized this is why it's going.
This is why
it's going in a particular direction.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I thought it was pretty good.
The keywords in the title are Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man.
Yeah. Yeah, it's more focused on Peter Parker than it is him being Spider-Man so much.
Right. Yep. Next up, we have Spider-Man 234.
Yeah. Well, let me review the book first, and let me recap it, and I'll give you my impressions of it. We begin with a shadowy villain in a trench coat and hat buying some tech from a black market dealer. She deals in supervillain tech. And he's real interested in this Iron Spider suit that she somehow acquired from Tony Stark. Meanwhile, at Brooklyn Visions Academy, Miles and this Rodriguez lady are hitting it off real hard. Goldball shows back up. Turns out he ran away from school because he thought he and Miles were after the same girl, which turned out not to be true. Turns out this other girl that he was interested in is Bombshell, and her mother's a villain. They're going to get involved in taking down S.H.I.E.L.D., and the shadowy villain at the end turns out to be Aaron Davis. Dude, and if you don't know who Aaron Davis is, it's Miles Morales' uncle. I feel like this book is aimlessly wandering right now. You've got Miles being Spider-Man, but not being Spider-Man because he's being Spider-Man in every other book that's not this one. You bring back his uncle for unknown reasons. They're going to knock off S.H.I.E.L.D. for some reason. You've got this love triangle thing going on. I don't know, man. This book feels like it's not. It feels like it's spinning its wheels to me.
Yeah, it's.
And I normally don't. I mean, I like the teenage stories, but this one is like you had him running around in Japan for a couple issues.
Yeah,
I don't know, man. I ain't into it.
You and I have discussed the fact that there's nothing wrong with having a teenage book as long as it doesn't become Billy the Model. Okay, as long as it actually has some action and some heroes in it occasionally. And this book is getting dangerously close to not doing that.
Yeah, it's well, and I guess part of it is that we know that Brian Michael Bendis is leaving, and so he won't be on the book a whole lot longer. I don't know, man. I feel like he has been writing Spider-Man so long, Miles Morales so long, that he's out of ideas. And I mean, he said that as much when he left Marvel for DC. I mean, he said that, you know, he had done so much at Marvel, he was out of stuff to do with the characters. He didn't want to play in the toy box anymore, essentially. You know, I mean, they were trying to give him Deadpool to do something with, and he didn't want to do it. It was like, you know, I've done so much with so many characters here, I don't know what else to do. And I think it's evident in the Spider-Man book.
Yeah. I understand at some point you get writer's block.
I don't know that it's writer's block. I think he's just hit the bottom of the barrel in terms of Spider-Man stories.
Well, okay. Anywho, next up we have our X-Men books with Astonishing X-Men number 5. Now, when this book launched a while back, I thought, why do we need another X-Men book? And this book is seemingly bringing us Charles Xavier. And I've read ahead some, so I know where the story's going. And this is called The Life of X Part 5. So what happened is when Cyclops killed Professor X, apparently his soul / spirit / mind wound up on the astral plane. And the Shadow King, old Farouk himself, captured him, and they started having battles on the astral plane. And as Professor Xavier recaps here, the battles went on and on and on for a very long time with all different kinds of forms. And there's a page there showing it. And I'm not reviewing this book in order because there's an interesting thing going on here. He's explaining to the X-Men that are there, which at this point is Rogue, Phantom X, and Mystique, what he has to do and why he has to do it. At the same time, he's still fighting the Shadow King on the astral plane, and he's telling the X-Men he doesn't have long, and because he's got this battle going on with the Shadow King, and he's got to rush things along. But then he starts talking to Phantom X and says, "Yeah, we got all the time in the world. Let's go talk." So I don't really. Did you read this book?
Yeah.
See, I know where it's going, but I don't know what's happening here.
He makes mention earlier in the issue about being able to do multiple things at once, so that may be what he's doing.
But why is he telling one group of X-Men they're very short on time, and then he tells Phantom X they have all the time in the world?
Because that's true for that group of X-Men, but he's got to do something in particular with Phantom X, and he's telling Phantom X that so they can talk.
Have you read ahead in this?
No.
Okay, we'll come back to that little plot line next issue, at the very end of next issue. How about that?
Okay.
Meanwhile, the Shadow King has possessed Gambit and possessed Logan, and they're out infecting the rest of the world with some kind of psychic virus, I guess.
Yeah.
And, it's now spreading across London, and the people who are in charge of this sort of thing in London decide they want to nuke London before it gets any worse. So there you go. It's a good book.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying it. And I can tell you, it's really, really going somewhere. So,
yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a good book. What else has been good is Iceman number 7, written by Senna Grace, art by Robert Gill, color by Rochelle Rosenberg, who's got all the work these days. The very first page is Bobby Drake's parents figuring out there's two versions of their son running around. From there, we pick up where we left off at the last issue, which is the Sentinels attacking downtown LA. Which, of course, the champions are there, the old champions, not the new champions. Hercules, Bobby Drake, Dark Star, Angel, Ghost Rider. They wrap up the Sentinel thing real quick. Bobby in particular, he creates this humongous like ice golem that's the size of the Sentinels and just knocks them out. It's pretty cool. Then he resumes his date with the dude here. That goes well for the both of them. So yeah, Bobby Drake's dating life seems to be going in a positive direction. The next morning, they all meet up at a bakery where Angel gets cheese Danish, and Dark Star gives them a hard time about it because they're in a Russian bakery. Cheese Danish is a Northern European pastry. Anyway,
I'm with you. I don't know if everyone else is, but I follow it.
Okay. If you were confused by that, that's why. It's like going to an Italian restaurant and ordering a hamburger. Bobby tells another story about Black Widow. Later, Bobby finds the lady that made those Sentinels, and instead of sending her to prison, gives her an opportunity to better herself, which is nice. Later, he goes back to New York, isn't settling in so well back at the X Mansion, so he decides he's probably going to move to LA.
There you go.
Yeah, that'd be great if this book wasn't being canceled in 2 issues.
Oh, man. Yeah.
And we've talked about this before, but at this year's Eisner Awards, a number of Marvel's books got nominated to win Eisner Awards. And by the time the Eisner Awards came around, all the series had been canceled.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm trying to look up the comic, the sales numbers.
Well,
Comic-Con, there we go.
Yeah. Tell us about Old Man Logan first.
Which one is February? Okay, I gotta go back some. Old Man Logan. This has been a great story arc, and it's not just. There's 2 reasons. It's got the Maestro and all these Hulk characters. 3 reasons. It's got Clint and Logan. Just yes, they're fighting, but they're also spending a lot of time hanging out, and this is important because if you read the original Old Man Logan series back in the day, you know, he and Old Man Clint hung out, and there's now actually an Old Man Hawkeye series on the stands that we'll start getting in a couple of months. So it's good to see these 2 people, these 2 characters, you know, kind of bonding in the series. The other thing about this is Mike Deodato Jr. is drawing this, and his art has evolved over the years. It's not a clean-cut Alex Ross style like it used to be, say 10 years ago, maybe 12 years ago. Mm-hmm. But it's still really good. But what he's doing now is he's got all kinds of different angles and perspectives that he's using to tell his art, to tell the story with. And it's just really, man, his art is just impressive. I mean, it really is. And they take this, and this is something Marvel started doing about a year ago, I think, maybe longer, and cutting it into panels. And sometimes it'll be like the same piece of art, and they'll cut it into a certain number of panels, but there'll be other panels interspaced with it of different pieces of art. And man, it's just visually, this book I really enjoyed it. So, you know, you can tell what my favorite book of the week is going to be because I just really enjoyed this thing. Anyway, last issue, they captured all of the Hulks that the Maestro sent out with nuclear bombs. And this issue, that they've got the one kid left who's got a nuke, and his sister, whose name I forgot, and Logan and Hawkeye are trying to prevent the kid from setting the nuke off. the Maestro's telling them to do it because, it'll be good for everybody. And finally, Hawkeye just shoots the kid with a concussion arrow. And then Logan and the Maestro start duking it out. And man, it's a great fight. I mean, it's as much as that Spectacular Spider-Man book wasn't a fight issue, this is nothing but one long fight issue. It's just
it's a big
everybody
battle.
Everybody trying to take the Maestro down. And the cool thing here is there's nothing like, okay, we're going to pretend he's dead and then we'll bring him back in a few issues. Nothing like that. He just, he and Logan just beat the crap out of each other and they go their separate ways. And the Maestro's like, dude, I'll be back. You just mark it. I'm coming for you.
Yeah.
And Logan's like, yeah, I'll be waiting for you. Yeah, it's really a good issue, really a good wrap up to this story arc. I will be surprised if this trade paperback doesn't sell amazingly well. And I'm planning soon on going back and reading all 6 issues again because it was really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm actually interested to see this move on to a new storyline, but I enjoyed this story.
I think we're doing Japanese stuff next issue.
Oh. Okay.
Maybe, I'm not sure.
Yeah. All right. That's fine. Dude, at this point you can do whatever you want to with Old Man Logan. It's gonna be good.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely.
Moving to our Inhumans books, which, as we always know, I hate the Inhumans, but I'm actually enjoying these 2 books. Inhumans Once and Future Kings #4. The bulk of this issue is a story where Spider-Man runs across Black Bolt. They get into a tussle. Maximus incapacitates Spider-Man, and somehow they become mind switched. So there's a funny little bit here where Maximus is trying to pick up medicine for Aunt May because he thinks he should, because he thinks he's Peter Parker. Anyway, you've got Triton, who's been captured and is able to get released. Cadillac and Black Bolt are trying to kill each other. There's some weirdness going on with Maximus and Medusa, like some romantic stuff. I'm enjoying this series okay, and the art by Phil Noto is really good, but it's messing with the continuity that we understand about the Inhumans. I mean, a lot of these characters had never met each other before now, and so it messes up how they become acquainted with one another when the Inhumans actually show up for real in the Fantastic Four.
Right.
So that's my only issue with it. I'll tell you, there's a little Lockjaw story here at the end, like a little 3-page Lockjaw story. Actually, it's 2 pages. It's actually really funny. Written by Ryan North, same dude that does Squirrel Girl. It's Thanos, and he's, doing his villain monologue about the Infinity Gauntlet when Lockjaw pops in and steals the Infinity Gauntlet. And Thanos is like, no matter, I still have my innumerable belt, which Lockjaw pops in and steals his belt. He says, now you'll have to reckon with the power of my fathomless helmet. And Lockjaw pops in and steals his helmet. And that keeps going on until Thanos is just naked at the end of the book.
That's funny.
Dude, the Lockjaw stories at the end of this series have been okay. This one made me laugh out loud.
That's good.
It was actually really cute.
Yeah. Before we move on, that Iceman issue was number 158 on the sales list, right behind Gwenpool, Black Bolt, and some other things, and right ahead of Hawkeye, U.S. Avengers, Luke Cage, and a few others. I've heard before that the profit margin for these books is 10,000 copies. Okay, that's how many issues of a comic you got to sell to make it profitable. Mm-hmm. It sold 12,000 plus. Call it 12,500.
So it was profitable, barely.
Yeah, and it's like TV. Okay, you want to cancel S.H.I.E.L.D., what are you going to replace it with? Right. You're gonna roll the dice and hope you get something better, and you may get something much better that does. You may get the next NCIS that'll run for 20 years.
Sure.
And you may get the Inhumans.
Right, I was gonna say, but then you rolled the dice and got the Inhumans, and it was awful. So
right, which and actually leading into Shield probably hurt Shield this year. So it's dude, it's a okay. Cancel Iceman. What are you going to replace it with? Yeah. Black Bolt number 7. This is basically. Go ahead.
I was gonna say Fraser Irving, guest artist on this issue, and phenomenal art.
It's not my style, but it's one of those things where the art and the color combined really made for a good presentation.
Yeah, and it fits with the aesthetic that this book has had.
Absolutely.
Running through it.
Right, absolutely. I mean, it's not my style, but I do appreciate it, and it was entertaining. And what's basically happening here is Black Bolt's trying to get all these characters home. He's getting the monster home to wherever he's going. Then he's going home. Yeah, it's okay. It's not great. It's kind of a filler issue. It's basically resetting the book. So
yeah, they're getting it ready to tell another story.
Right. And it's fine. The kid with one eye or all the eyes, depending on your perspective, he's a psychic, and yeah. Anywho, it's okay.
Yeah, I enjoyed it because I really like Fraser Irving's art, and so knowing that he was going to be the guest artist this issue, that did it for me.
Yeah, it was all right.
Moving on to our One Avengers book this week, Avengers number 673. Dude, these legacy numberings. You and I both have been reading comic books for a combined 40 years?
Combined?
Yeah.
Probably 60 years.
Okay. Between the two of us, 60 years of comic books, and dude, this legacy numbering still confuses me.
They're going to what they should have done. If they wanted to do the legacy, they're going to what they should have done in a few months, which is it will be issue number 1, legacy number 695.
Yes, and I'm actually happy with that compromise.
And this isn't rocket science. I mean, Batman number 42, 40, 41, 42, something like that, a few months ago was actually issue 800.
Mm-hmm.
So, DC has a big celebration. It's issue 800. There's a big 800 up in the corner, but it's also issue 40. This isn't rocket science.
Yeah, dude. I think it's why you saw their sales dip like this, or one of the reasons, because everybody's like, what? Avengers, what now?
Yeah, but you got all these covers too, man. And they had a full-blown rebellion. I mean, I've got all the alternate covers put on the website, and I didn't put the lenticulars up, but I just didn't. And because they don't look right. So you've got all these friggin' covers, and they were convinced alternate covers is the way they were going to drive their sales. And it didn't work. Not only did it not work, they just flat had people, buyers and retailers both, just rebelling, saying, we're not doing it. And when we get to, and I discussed earlier, what's next we're going to do, the boom, the bust, and the comparisons between then and now. Part of the bust was they got to relying on all these gimmicks, and it don't work, man. It's not how you sell books long term.
Yeah, I read Comic Store in Your Future column on Bleeding Cool the other day, and dude from Rodman Comics writes that column, and it's about owning a comic book shop, and he wrote 2 articles about Marvel's strategy with variant covers is not working.
No,
it hasn't worked in years, and it's a gimmick, and they need a new strategy. And you're seeing it's been a bad strategy for decades. I think they broke the camel's back with that last straw that was these lenticular covers.
Yeah, it was.
And to turn around and go to just continue the same strategy with variant covers, the stores are rebelling. They're not ordering them.
No, it's because and we've spent a lot of time talking about this in the past. It's an increasing sales number that the stores have to order and the stores are stuck with books that they don't need. I mean, when we're at the Free Comic Book Day last weekend, you know, Jason and Neil just got boxes and boxes and boxes and boxes and boxes of unsold comics that they're giving away, 15 for $5 just to try and get them out of the building.
Yeah.
Because of incentives like this, they've ordered them over the years.
Right. Which was always strange when I learned how the incentive thing works. It's if you order either X amount of books or a certain percentage over what you normally order, you get a single issue, either a single issue with this cover, or you can then order however many you want of this cover. It depends on how it goes.
Yeah.
It depends on the particular promotion.
Yes.
I have always gone, how is that a way to boost sales? I don't, why would you? You're asking them to over order stock just to goose your own numbers.
Yes.
And if you understand how comic book stores work, they work on very tight margins, and they're only going to order the books that they know they can sell.
Yeah.
Stuff that people have pulled, and maybe a couple of issues for the rack out front, depending on if it's a big issue or not.
Yeah.
But if you're trying to sell a variant cover of Avengers, whatever, issue whatever, unless you've got a guy in your store with it on his pull list who wants that particular variant cover and is willing to pay the cost of covering all those books, it's not an incentive.
I know.
I've never understood it. For
never.
10 years, I've never understood it.
Never.
So. Anyway, back to Avengers 673. So we're dealing with this storyline with the High Evolutionary and the Counter Earth, where Falcon and Vision have been transported. They get captured and taken to the High Evolutionary. Meanwhile, a number of the Avengers back on regular Earth have incapacitated one of the High Evolutionary's guys and are interrogating him. And Vision is kind of overreacting. He literally phases his arm into the dude's head and is going to squeeze his brain and kill him if he doesn't tell him what the deal is. And everybody's like, yo, dude, you need to chill out. I understand they took your daughter, but whoa.
Yeah.
And that's when dude reveals High Evolutionary's plan. The Counter Earth doesn't affect our regular Earth because they're out of vibrational phase with one another. So the Earth will literally pass through the other one every 20 minutes because the rotation is different. So what they did with all the earthquakes and stuff that happened in the last issue is they brought the regular Earth into phase with the Counter Earth. And what's happening is every 20 minutes, the planets are phasing through one another and they're being picked up from one to the other. So Falcon and Viv are now on the Counter Earth. And as we'll see in just a moment, some of those from Counter Earth show up here. And I'm not really sure what his goal is there, except is it to unite the two together, or I don't know.
I think he wants to overthrow this Earth 616 and rule both Earths.
Yeah, that's what I think too. Either way, Viv and Falcon have been drugged before the High Evolutionary, who has grand plans for both of them. If you don't know who the High Evolutionary is, just go read his Wikipedia because it's convoluted and complicated. Just understand that his whole thing is artificially evolving creatures up above their own normal status. That's why all of his minions are animals that are very human-like.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, some of the man beasts that show up from Counter Earth on Earth, the Avengers are able to negotiate with them instead of fighting with them, and they figure out what's going on. They figure out how to get to Counter Earth and how to stop all this, but they've got to rescue Falcon and Viv first. Meanwhile, High Evolutionary has been experimenting on Viv, and she's very different now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, we'll see how that turns out. Next in our 616 universe, the first book is Captain America number 695. And
written by Mark Waid, art by Chris Samney, Matthew Wilson doing the color. I really enjoyed the art in this book.
Dude, I really don't.
Really?
But okay. Yeah, I don't.
What do you not like about it?
I like clean, crisp lines, and this doesn't have that.
Yes, it does.
No,
How is this not? Yes, it does. How is this not crisp and clean? You can make that distinction about the Black Bolt book, but dude, it doesn't get cleaner and crisper than this, really.
Dude,
you like photorealism, is what you like. That's why you like Mike Deodato's art so much, because it's photorealistic.
Sure, that's why I like Alex Deodato and Alex Ross and
Mike Deodato.
What did I say?
Alex.
Well, I was saying Alex Ross.
Yeah, you said Alex Deodato.
Okay, whatever.
Yeah. Anyway.
Mike Deodato Jr., Alex Ross, Greg Land. Yes, that's the style of art that I like. You look at their faces on this, and the faces are just bad. The bodies aren't. Most of the bodies and the physiques are done very well. It's a lot of times it's just, dude, it's like a 3 lines for a nose and an eye.
Dude, no, it isn't. Look at page 10. You get a close up of Steve Rogers' face without the mask on. He looks like Steve Rogers.
Yeah, look at page 6, man. Those kids are horrible.
It is a stylized look.
Yeah. Okay. And even 10's not good, man. I mean, it's a square face. I mean, his face is he's got a blockhead, man.
No, he doesn't. He's got a square jawline because he's Steve Rogers.
It literally has a corner. It's literally square, man.
Okay.
The jawline.
We'll agree to disagree on the art here, because I really like this art. I've always been.
I'm just saying it's just not my style, is what I'm saying. You know, as you put it, I prefer photorealistic art, and this is good. It's just not what I prefer. It's not my preference.
Yeah, I got you. Either way, Mark Waid is writing this now, and I wasn't real hyped on this, even though I love Mark Waid, because I was waiting for Ta-Nehisi Coates to take over the book. But after reading this issue, I'm like, you know what? I don't mind this little Mark Waid pit stop for a minute.
Yeah, because it opens with, and this is the first time that Captain America has appeared since the whole Hydra thing.
Yeah.
It opens 10 years ago. And for those who don't know, we recently retconned in this issue and in that Avengers #1 that came out a couple of weeks ago on the newsstand that we'll get in 6 months, that, you know, Captain America's been out of the ice since approximately 2006, 7, something like that.
Right. It's the sliding timeline.
Yeah. So 10 years ago, he's in this little town in Brighton, Nebraska, and stops these villains from taking over the town and killing some kids and taking over the diner.
Right. It's funny how this is technically supposed to be the early to mid 2000s, but these kids are dressed and look like they're from the 1950s.
Yeah. Yeah. Anywho, 10 years later, Captain America is once again on his motorcycle driving across America, because that's what he does whenever something like this happens.
Yeah,
he gets on a motorcycle and rides away. And Boynton County, Nebraska is now the city of Captain America, Nebraska. And turns out he's there on the day of a big festival where they're celebrating everything he did and how he saved the town, and people are telling different stories about how he saved the town. And it's kind of cathartic for both Steve Rogers and the reader, because it's a reset for Captain America, where you realize, okay, this isn't Hydra Cap, this is Steve Rogers.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the way he should be. And then, of course, the same villains show up, and the same group of villains, and want to kill everyone in the town. That's when he reveals himself to be Captain America and defeats the villain, and he's the hero again. I will give you this. Page 19 is a really good piece of artwork.
Yeah, it's him beating up the villains.
I mean, that's the kind of thing you would put on a poster. And the image of him on page 21 isn't bad either.
When I saw that, I went back to the cover and went, is that the same picture as the cover? It's not, but they're real similar.
Okay. I was wondering. Anywho,
it's a real good splash page right there.
Yeah, it's a good splash page. And this essentially resets Captain America, which is good to see. And it was an entertaining little issue.
I really enjoyed the part where he's talking to the hot dog vendor, and they don't realize it's him because he's out of his costume. So he's Captain America at a Captain America festival, but nobody knows it's him yet.
Right.
And the whole reason he's there is because he had intel that group of villains is going to be there.
Right.
But the guy gives him this crazy conspiracy theory about how Steve Rogers never came out of the ice. It was the government trying to capitalize on nostalgia and putting a new guy in the suit to make the Avengers more legitimate. And it was funny.
Yeah, it was.
It's like somebody going up to LeBron James and be like, "Hey man, anybody ever told you look like LeBron James?" Yeah, they tell me that all the time. Yeah, I bet you can't play basketball like LeBron James.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, well, I don't know, maybe. But anyway, I really enjoyed this, and I thought
I did too.
I think I'm going to enjoy this Captain America series. And the letter page in the back with Mark Waid talking about why he likes Captain America so much is really good too.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
and it's getting Captain America back to his core, which is the strong defend the weak.
Right.
So yeah, it's good to see that after Marvel spent 18 months bastardizing him.
Yeah. I wouldn't have put it that strongly, but sure.
That's how I felt about it, and that's how a lot of other people felt about it too. So
okay.
Again, it was a timing thing more than anything, but that's how it felt.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Secret Empire was bad, but there are lessons to be learned from reading Secret Empire and looking at your news feed on a daily basis. But getting Captain America back to his core tenets is really something Marvel needed to do. And Mark Waid was the guy to do it.
Yeah, it's the same thing with the Avengers. Getting the Avengers, when you run into serious problems, getting the Avengers back to Iron Man, Captain America, Thor is always a good reset.
Right.
And that's what they did with the issue that hit the newsstands a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, the new #1, which both of you and I read because it came out the week before Free Comic Book Day, and we'll see. I think Jason Aaron's weaving a big tale there. Then we'll see where it goes. We'll talk about it when it hits Unlimited.
Yeah, there you go.
Meanwhile, in Guardians of the Galaxy #146, we're picking up with this Nova Corps storyline again. You've got the Talons of the Brotherhood of the Raptors, who are somehow like sworn enemies of the Nova Corps. I'm not sure what the deal with that is. Meanwhile, the Nova Corps is trying to rebuild itself, but it's not really going well. The recruits are not exactly happy. So they've brought in the Guardians of the Galaxy under the guise as new Nova recruits to figure out what the deal is. They go to investigate a distress call. Turns out Ultron is up to something. A bunch of aliens on the ship have been turned into half Ultrons. They spend most of the issue dealing with that. So,
okay. Yeah. Sounds exciting.
Did you read this?
No, not yet.
It was okay. I was about to ask you if you knew where this Ultron thing was going, or if this was just a tool, a villain to use.
I mean, the last I heard, Ultron was still sitting up in Alaska, and now we've got him popping up all over the universe. Man, I don't know what we're doing there.
Well, I mean, that's Ultron's MO is he can be, because he can replicate himself, he can be anywhere he wants to be. So yeah, he's in Alaska, but he can also have his minions and versions of himself in space.
Okay. I'm not sure Pentrom can be everywhere at the same time.
Well, no, he's not, but these are, what has happened is Ultron has, like the Borg work in Star Trek, has infected these aliens with Ultron tech, and they've basically taken over the aliens' bodies. Right.
I understand. Yeah. I'm just not sure I agree with it.
Okay. Yeah. Tell us about Power Pack #63.
Yes, Power Pack #63, which for some reason Marvel felt we needed a Power Pack one shot. I don't know why. I've never read a Power Pack issue before in my life.
Yeah, if you look at the end of this book, they're doing a bunch of legacy one-shots, and this is a part of that. Why they called it number 63, I don't know.
Because it's a legacy numbering.
Whatever.
Yeah, it's a one-shot that we call it 63 for whatever reason. I don't know. I don't. Anywho, it's Katie Power basically retelling the story of some of the Power Pack adventures and just kind of telling you what they're up to now, which is she's in high school. I think her brother's in college. One of them's going with Future Foundation, and I don't know where the other one is. Okay, sure.
Yeah. And at the end there's a list of other Power Pack, not Power Pack, legacy one-shots that they're going to do here shortly.
Yeah, I don't know the reason. I guess you wanted to know what Power Pack is up to, and you're a huge Power Pack fan. This book is very important to you. Otherwise, yeah, I got nothing.
Have you ever met a huge Power Pack fan?
No.
I don't think they exist.
But it sold 63 issues, so, somebody had to do something.
It sold 63 issues?
This is issue 63. So that means it ran for 5 years and 2 months.
Okay, but Power Pack has ran in fits and bursts for how many years?
Dude, I don't know. I don't care.
I'd like to see the sales numbers on this particular one shot, to be honest, just to see what that did for them.
Well, let's see if I can find them.
Okay, and I'll tell you about Iron Fist number 74, which is actually pretty good. As we saw in the last issue, Iron Fist and Sabretooth have teamed up. Iron Fist is trying to get the Book of the Iron Fist back from some people who stole it. Turns out the Serpent Society stole it on behalf of I forget the name of these folks, but they're the ones who want to take over Kunlun. Sabretooth has a stake in it because the leader of the Serpent Society is his buddy, and his name's Frank. And Frank's dead, so somebody else is running around in dude's costume, and he wants to put a stop to it. So they go to the bar with no name looking for a lead. Sabretooth busts the place up until somebody tells him something. Meanwhile, the Serpent Society, being, idiots, decide that they're going to extort this group of kung fu masters for more money for this book. That's probably not going to end well for them. Iron Fist and Sabretooth continue to interrogate people in order to find a lead, and everybody busts up in the Serpent Society hideout all at the same time. So there's going to be a big brawl next issue.
Yeah. Power Pack sold 15,360 copies, which is better than Captain Marvel, Gwenpool, Gen X, Inhumans, Once and Future Kings, US Avengers. A lot of books, man.
That's insane.
Better than Luke Cage, better than Injustice 2, better than Royals. I don't, came in around number 120 on the list.
Well, I guess I'm going to have to eat my hat because apparently more people like Power Pack than I thought.
Apparently.
Anyway, Thor versus Hulk number 4 is there. I think that's number 4. I don't really know. Who cares? Nobody cares. We don't care. Nobody cares. Do you care? If you care, email us. Otherwise, the book happened. Hooray.
Dude, Marvel sales are awful.
Apparently, they're picking back up.
I hope so, man. I mean, they have like 3 books in the top 20.
Is that for April?
No, this is November of 2017, the week these books came out.
Oh, yeah, that was like the low point for them. If you look at April's numbers, they've rebounded a little bit.
Yeah, they're rebounding some, but dude, they're bad, man. I mean, comic sales in general are down, but DC's got the first 7 spots. Then you get Captain America, then another Batman book, then Star Wars, Justice League, White Knight, Walking Dead, Punisher came in at number 15. Dude, Amazing Spider-Man Renew Your Vows at number 16.
People like that book, dude. I don't get it, but
I don't understand it, man.
I don't either, man.
I don't.
Yeah, and we've talked about this a little bit briefly on the previous issue, but or the previous issue previously in this episode. You know, the landscape of the comic book market is changing. I think the days of Spider-Man selling 100,000 copies a month is over. I think there's going to be a new benchmark of what sells really well and what doesn't. I mean, Batman's barely touching 90,000 these days.
It shipped twice, 97 and 96.
Right. I mean, and Batman used to sell like bigger numbers than that. The issue is that you have probably fewer people reading comic books these days. You certainly have fewer comic book stores. These numbers that we're seeing don't account for digital, which is a growing market. And I wonder if they don't count digital because of how much it's growing. I just wonder. Because they don't want to put the comic book stores out of business. Both the big two publishers are publishing more books than they ever have every month, as well as you have these smaller and not so small publishers publishing a ton of stuff. You've got, original graphic novels being sold. You've got this, it's not a new market, but it's being a rediscovered market of not young adult, but all ages books that are beginning to dominate sales. That's why you're seeing so many all ages books come out in recent months, is because that is a serious revenue stream for them. So the landscape is changing.
413 comic books came out in November.
Dude, and I mean, that's a lot. That's a lot.
Yes. Yeah, that's a whole lot.
It's a ton.
Yep. Next, we have our Star Wars books, which this week is Darth Vader number 7. Darth is training the Inquisitors. There are parts of the Inquisitors just kind of all over the room, body parts, I should say.
Yeah, I mean, the first page opens with him slicing a dude's arm off.
Yeah. Okay, you'll get it. Yeah. Yeah. We'll get you a mechanical one. You need to learn from this. Then he and the dude that are in charge of the Inquisitors learn that they need to go after the remaining Jedi. There's one in particular that the Emperor wants them to go after. Vader doesn't know why. Turns out she accumulated a lot of knowledge, not only about the Jedi, but about the Sith. Mm-hmm. And she's got it hidden. And the Emperor does not want that knowledge going anywhere. Wants it with him. Wants this woman captured alive, and he wants all the material that she has. It's a pretty entertaining little issue. It's not great. It's kind of like a filler between stories because you can tell it's going somewhere. But it's interesting in that, this woman's got all this stuff, and to the Emperor, that makes her the most dangerous woman out there.
Yeah, man. I can tell you, I've read ahead in this. This is really just an introduction to what he's doing here. The next 2 issues are going to deal with him tracking down Jocasta, who was the librarian at the temple,
right?
The Jedi temple. So yes, she has all the secret knowledge, and it's going to start to get really good here soon. And if you look on the very last page, you get a preview of what the cover of next issue looks like, and that's a cool looking cover, dude.
That's a cool looking cover. Yeah.
This Darth Vader series is awesome.
It's pretty good. Yeah,
it's really good. I'm enjoying it immensely. What was your favorite book this week? Even though I have a guess.
Old Man Logan.
Yeah, I figured it would.
Good story, good arc, good characters. The end of a story arc. Yeah, it was just all good, man.
That's cool. Mine was Captain America 695.
Yeah, that was a good issue too. That was good, resetting the character and resetting the book, and it was good. It was very good.
It was a nice breath of fresh air after having to watch Captain America be a villain for so long.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. The dump this week was chock full of a ton of stuff. We had Defenders number 42 through 57, Marvel Premiere number 49, X-Men Annual number 3, X-Men Unlimited number 4 through 7, X Factor 107, Domino number 1 through 3, which I think was a 3-issue miniseries from 97.
Yes.
X-Men Future History, which I think was a one-shot, a Siege one-shot from that event a few years ago, and Fear Itself, The Worthy number 8. So yeah, we only had 14 books this week, so I guess they filled out the dump with a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, and as we discussed in last week's episode, that Siege book and that X-Men book are both basically what they used to call Marvel Guided Universe, and it's them breaking down different characters. They're interesting reads if you're into that sort of thing.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
That's good to know.
Yep. In our classic read this week, we have Silver Surfer from 1968. I think we discussed this a long time ago, maybe a year ago, when Stan Lee and Jack Kirby created the Silver Surfer. Stan Lee put out a mandate that no one was allowed to write the Silver Surfer but him. And these 18 issues are written by Stan Lee, and it's the last time you see the Silver Surfer, other than maybe an appearance or two in FF, until he shows up in the Defenders like 6 or 7 years later, because Stan Lee wouldn't let anybody write him. It's 18 issues. It's a good story. It's the first appearance of Mephisto. You have you've got the Thor and Silver Surfer fighting it out in an issue. It's a good series. It's a very good little series.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that works with Silver Surfer having wrapped up last week. Go read some classic Silver Surfer if you're sad about Silver Surfer being over for a while.
Sure.
Yeah. Anyway, that's going to wrap us up for this week. We've got a new episode of What's Next coming up. You can get in touch with us at 6monthsbehind@gmail.com. That's the number 6monthsbehind@gmail.com.
The website is www.6monthsbehind.com.
You can also follow us on Twitter at 6 Months Behind. And Pat, as our tradition, do you have any wisdom to leave us with this week?
There's no perpetual engine in the world. However, there's a lot of eternal brakes.
I don't get it, but okay.
Okay. I'll explain it to you off the air.
Okay. We'll see you guys next week.
Peace.
Okay, you want to do what's next?
Sure.
Okay. Hang on. Are there any notes I need to look at for what's next?
No, I'm just going to talk for about 15 minutes.
Okay, I was going to say, because this is your brainchild, so
I'm just going to talk about, Marvel history for the next 15 minutes.
How is it that we can spend less than an hour talking about 19 books and then we have 14 books and spend an hour and 15 doing it?
Because we rambled 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, we did. Okay. You ready? Need to pee.
Nope, I'm good.
Okay. Got the intro?
Yep.
All right. 3, 2, 1.
Hello again. This is the What's Next podcast. I am Pat.
And I am Sean.
And this is the podcast where we dive into the other parts of the Marvel Unlimited universe, where you can see what there is to read besides the normal things that come out every week. And if you just want to read classic stuff or know about classic stuff, this is where you do it. How you doing, man?
I'm good, dude. How are you?
I am good. I decided, I don't know you know, all the time we kick around what to do with what's next, and what should we cover? Should we cover this? Should we cover that? This is the first part of a 3-part series, and this is the boom. And the boom began in the mid 80s, late 80s, with a series of artists coming to Marvel. And the names are just, dude, picture all these guys working at Marvel at one time. Rob Liefeld, Jim Lee, Mark Silvestri, Todd McFarlane, Jim Valentino, all these guys at Marvel at one time. They were all there, man. They were just, dude. And Marvel sales were off the chain. I mean, they were selling millions of comics every month.
That was the era where Jim Lee sold 1 million issues of X-Men, wasn't it? Or something like that?
8 million.
8 million issues of X-Men.
Over the course of a year, over the course of a 12-month period, and these are the books we're going to discuss this week. Todd McFarlane was drawing Spider-Man. It was like he did like a couple of minor gigs there. Excuse me.
Todd McFarlane's run on Spider-Man is well known and legendary.
Well, and what he did, he was on Amazing, and they came to him and said, "Look, what do you want to do next?" And just out of the blue, thinking they would never give him what he wanted, he said, "I want to write and draw my own Spider-Man series." And they said, "Okay, sure, absolutely, knock yourself out." And that became Spider-Man #1. It sold, like, at the time, it was the highest selling comic that had ever been put out, sold like 1 million copies. And it began his run not on Amazing, because he'd been on Amazing for a few years, but on Spider-Man itself. And it's an iconic cover that's on Spider-Man #1. It's a really good issue. Todd McFarlane's storytelling isn't great. Maybe you could argue that with the success of Spawn, but his art is amazing. And his storytelling got better when he got to Spawn.
Yeah. To be fair, the storytelling in Spawn isn't always spot on either.
No, it's not. It's just, it kind of is what it is.
The concept of Spawn is cooler than the storytelling. Not that there haven't been good Spawn stories. It's just Todd McFarlane is a legendary comic book artist, and storytelling is not his strongest point.
Right.
Granted, here we are talking about comic books on the internet and not writing them. So what do we know?
What do we know? And oh, by the way, he sold 1 million issues and started his own company. So what do we know?
Yeah.
At the same time, Rob Liefeld was doing X-Force, and he started with X-Force New Mutants #87 as the artist. And he and Louise Simonson didn't see eye to eye on the New Mutants. And he eventually just shoved her out. And it was relaunched with X-Force #1, where, Rob Liefeld was again the total creator, writer, artist. He did it all.
Yeah.
And again, X-Force #1, man, it sold like 2 million copies. All right. It was ridiculously hot. And he continued his X-Force run for quite a while. And these books were all good, man. I mean, dude, I'm the guy that bought them off the shelf. Okay. So I remember I probably had 2 issues of X-Force #1, 2 copies of X-Force #1. And, Rob Liefeld created all those characters that we're so familiar with to this day during that run. New Mutants 87 to 100 and X-Force 1 Cable, Deadpool, Domino, Shatterstar. I mean, just it's a list of characters that Liefeld created, and he was just turning out new creations that are iconic to this day. Even now, he was just spitting them out.
Yeah.
Next you had Jim Lee. Now, Jim Lee had been drawing some stuff for Marvel. He did a couple of Daredevil issues, I think, did some Captain America issues, and eventually settled on Uncanny X-Men. Yeah. And at the time,
this was before he was Jim Lee. He was just a comic book artist. He was a good one and one that Marvel liked to work with, but this is how he became Jim Lee.
Yes, this is where he became Jim Lee.
Yeah.
So what Marvel wanted to do was split the X-Men into 2 books. Understand, they already had X-Force, they already had
New Mutants,
Uncanny. They had all these books. They wanted another one because they're selling hundreds of thousands of issues of each a month.
Yeah, the X-Men were super hot in the 90s.
Yeah, so they did.
In fact, that's where my love affair of the X-Men comes from, is being a 90s kid. The X-Men were everywhere, so I fell in love with the X-Men.
Yeah. So what they did is they took the X-Men, launched them into a blue team and a gold team. I think the blue team wound up in X-Men #1, which for the first 3 issues, Chris Claremont wrote and Jim Lee drew, and then eventually Jim Lee just shoved them out. And or to be more exact, Chris Claremont was tired of arguing with artists. Mm-hmm. He was just, where it was John Romita Jr., John Byrne, all those years ago, Jim Lee, he was just tired of arguing with artists, and he was just like, peace out, I'm done. And that left Jim Lee at the entire creative helm of the X-Men series. Not Uncanny. Somebody else was doing it, Uncanny, but he stayed there. X-Men #1 sold 8,200,000 copies. That one issue. 8,200,000 copies.
Even in that era, that was an unprecedented amount of comic books.
That was insane. It was insane. Now those are your reads for this issue of what's next. You got Spider-Man #1 with Todd McFarlane series. You got the Rob Liefeld stuff. They're in New Mutants 87 through 100, and then X-Force #1, the original version of X-Force, and then X-Men #1. What happened was,
real quick, just to give you perspective, DC just released Action Comics #1000, which is going to be the hottest selling comic book of this decade, and they only sold about 500,000 copies.
Yes,
which is tremendous in this day and age. That is phenomenal. That is astronomical. But 8 million copies of X-Men, dude.
Yeah. Now, those are your reads. Now, here's the story behind all those reads and behind the birth of Image Comics. Todd McFarlane in particular. It was really Todd McFarlane and Rob Liefeld. Mm-hmm. When Todd McFarlane made that iconic cover of Spider-Man #1, it was everywhere. It was on posters. It was on T-shirts. It was on stickers. That image wound up being everywhere. And what Todd McFarlane got was the pay that he was due. They had a good bonus structure. He got the bonus, but he didn't get a cut of the T-shirts. He didn't get a cut of the coffee cups. He didn't get nothing else. He didn't get it. He got
paid for the art when he made it, and that was pretty much it.
Yeah. Now, to give you an example of this, Jim Lee today, I think if you go to our website, 6monthsbehind.com, and look at alternate covers, you will find X-Men Jim Lee covers. Jim Lee hasn't worked for Marvel since this happened in 91 or 92. Mm-hmm. But they're still using his art. Okay. Because
it's old stuff that he did, and they've got it on file, and they own it, so he can.
And they paid, $750 or $1,000 for the original piece of artwork, and now they're reprinting in his alternate covers. They're doing the same thing to Jack Kirby, Jim Steranko, many other artists. They're just everybody. And Todd McFarlane was like, time out, man. Rob Liefeld was like, look, I just gave you all these characters, okay? I just created Cable. I just created Deadpool. I just created all these characters, and I didn't get anything, They were well paid. They were rich, mm-hmm. But they were like, I don't get anything.
Right.
And
they were being paid for it, but they should have been making more.
Yes. So what happened was Todd McFarlane got together again with Rob Liefeld, and Jim Valentino was in real quick. So you wind up with, and here's what these guys were doing. The month they left X-Men, here's what these guys were doing. When they left Marvel, Jim Lee was drawing X-Men and writing X-Men. Mm-hmm. Whilce Persilio, I always get his name wrong, was drawing Uncanny X-Men. Rob Liefeld was doing X-Force. Mark Silvestri was doing Wolverine. Todd McFarlane was doing Spider-Man. Eric Larson was doing Amazing Spider-Man. Jim Valentino was doing Guardians of the Galaxy, which was a really great book at the time. He was writing and drawing it.
Yeah. And this was the Guardians before it was the ones you and I know.
Yes. To put this in perspective, and of the top 50 comics in 1991, these guys wrote and or drew 44 of them. Okay. That's how hot they were. And that's how hot Marvel was. So, Todd McFarlane and Rob Liefeld fly to New York, and there was some kind of meeting they were having. And that it wasn't Archie Goodwin. There was somebody running Marvel at the time. And they sat down and met with him in a hotel room. Just said, look, we want more. Okay, work with us. Give us something here. Give us a cut of all this other stuff. And they were like, no, you're getting paid. You're getting paid well. We're not doing it. At the same time, Jim Lee actually wasn't going to leave. But whatever this meeting was, all the wives were there. All the wives were supposed to come. And Marvel wouldn't pick up the tab for Jim Lee's wife to fly to New York. All the money they're making, they wouldn't pick up the tab for his wife to fly to New York.
That's just unprofessional.
And Jim Lee was like, peace out. I'm done, man. I'm out.
You can screw me around all you want, but my wife, nah.
And then the next day after that meeting, all these guys quit Marvel the same day. Quit on the spot.
Yeah.
Yeah. And went and formed what is Image Comics. Actually, each formed their own studio, and it was published through Image Comics and distributed through Image Comics. But yeah, man, these guys were just like over it. And I'm part of me says, maybe it's a little petty. The other part, dude, they were making Marvel boatloads of money, hundreds of millions of dollars. And
yeah,
Marvel was giving them a fraction of it.
Was it Tom DeFalco who was in charge of Marvel at the time?
It may have been. Yeah, it may have been Tom DeFalco.
Yeah, he was EIC from 87 to 94, and then Bob Harris from 95 to 2000. So yeah,
then it was DeFalco.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
No, and he just wouldn't pay them. These books, man, they're good books. They really are. And you kind of, as we talked earlier, they're not the best storytellers, but dude, the stuff that Rob Liefeld created on that New Mutants X-Force run.
Dude, in a week, Deadpool 2 comes out, and it's going to be one of the highest grossing films of this year.
Yeah.
Can you imagine the money that Rob Liefeld would make if he were actually making money off of Deadpool?
I know.
But as far as I know, unless he's renegotiated with Marvel, he ain't getting a dime of that money.
Which he hasn't. He's not getting any of it because everything they created, and I think it was Todd McFarlane at one point said, why do I want to create new characters? Why do I want to create new villains? I'm just giving them to you. You're going to make lots of money off of them, and I'm going to get nothing.
Yeah, which is why you have Image Comics today.
Yeah.
He and Rob Liefeld and Jim Lee and McFarlane and Silvestri and all those guys who are all still on the board at Image Comics said, we're going to go make our own publisher where creators can publish their own stuff and they get to retain the rights to it.
Absolutely.
Now, Image works a little differently in that you basically have to pony up the money up front, but as long as it keeps making money, they'll keep putting it out, dude.
Yeah, man. Dude, as long as it's making money, they'll put it out.
And Image is responsible for a great many popular comic books these days.
Yeah. I'd have to go back and read it, but they're also, I won't say they figured out the trade paperback market, but a lot of their writers, yes, they put out 6 issues, but stuff like Saga is selling much better in trades. Again, printed by Image, published by Image, than it is on the newsstand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's and a lot of that is because you have shifted from during this time, the industry shifted from writing for the individual issue to writing what they call for the trade, which is why you see 6-issue and 12-issue story arcs.
Yep.
So it's better to read it in that format because it all makes sense.
Sure.
Which is why if I'm buying them physically, I prefer them that way.
Dude, we were discussing on this week's episode of 6 Months Behind, we were discussing that run on Old Man Logan with the Maestro in it. And it was a 6-issue arc, which is perfect for a trade paperback. It's going to be a great trade read.
Absolutely. And it'll sell a ton in trades. And you and I could spend the next 20 minutes talking about how the industry should move to trades altogether. But yeah, so you had the Image thing happen. You had the speculation boom of the 90s. And the comic book industry just swelled to new heights.
Yes, absolutely. And as we'll discuss in our next episode, there was nowhere to go but down, which part 2 will be the bust.
Yeah, we'll talk about speculation, why that was bad for the industry, what happened to the industry with speculation, and why it might happen again.
Yes, absolutely.
But in the meantime, if you want to get in touch with us, you can email us at 6monthsbehind@gmail.com. That's the number 6monthsbehind@gmail.com.
You can visit our website at www.6monthsbehind.com, where I will have links to all the issues discussed in this episode.
And please give us a follow at 6 Months Behind on Twitter.
There you go.
Yeah. All right, guys. We'll see you next week when we talk about the comic book bust.
Yep. Peace.